Can you really call yourself a professional author if you have more works published on Wattpad than you do have published traditionally?
I think that I could still be called a published author. I think that the internet is still a place to publish things. And the stuff on Wattpad is just mostly really short stories or the stuff that I was going to trash anyway. So I might as well put my trash on the internet.
Welcome to Between Two Perns. My name is Jackson Dickert, and I'm joined here by best-selling author of the Drowning Empire trilogy, Andrea Stewart.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Andrea, you were the third quarter first place winner in 2012's L. Ron Hubbard's International Writers of the Future contest.
Yes, I was.
L. Ron Hubbard is the founder of Scientology, a cult that grooms, manipulates, and preys on people.
Yes.
When you received your award, you started off your acceptance speech.
First off, I'd like to thank L. Ron Hubbard for starting this contest. Without it, I would not be here.
Does it feel weird looking back and watching yourself thank a dead cult leader who's responsible for the suffering of so many innocent people who were desperate to find ways to improve their life and just didn't know any better?
Okay, so yes, it felt weird. I was told that people would really appreciate it if I thanked L. Ron Hubbard, and I am a consummate people pleaser. So I did what I was asked. I thanked L. Ron Hubbard, and I wouldn't have been there otherwise. I was not aware of all the background for that. I have some regrets, but I cannot, unfortunately, go back and change what I did.
In a blog post, you called the experience the best week in 2 days of your life. And so you're married with 2 children now.
Yes.
I was wondering if receiving an award from a Scientologist organization was still the best 9 days of your life, or if the nose pickers had managed to overshadow that.
Honestly, I would say the best day of my life was probably the day that I told my boss that I was a writer and I was quitting my job.
Oh, okay. On the last day of the event, you said that you got to hear a stirring rendition of Writers of the Future, the musical, that it moved you to write a 42-page story about life and everything, but then you burned it because nothing could be as beautiful as that musical. Do you still think that nothing could ever be as beautiful as the Writers of the Future musical?
Be inspired by endless possibility.
It was one of those once-in-a-lifetime events that only happens once. And it was improvised, and it was gorgeous. And there were 2 people singing, and I don't think I will ever experience something like that again.
Anything you believe, yeah.
Looking back now, are you at all moved to, write a fantasy allegory that warns youths against the dangers of a cult using a program for SFF writers as a way of garnering more legitimacy for their dead cult leader so that they can continue to leech money from people who join Scientology without knowing better?
That's funny that you say that because my new book does have a cult. It does not have science fiction and fantasy writers in it. However, it does have people being led astray and being told lies about what is actually happening.
At the end of that blog post, you said that you highly recommend that those starting out in the field of speculative fiction enter the contest. Do you still recommend for impressionable young writers to put themselves in a situation where they are essentially groomed and put on display in an attempt to make a cult look more hip, cool, and respected?
It depends on who you are and what your morals are, I would say. I think that certain people had a worse experience than I did, and my experience was a little bit weird when I look back on it, but at the same time, I did meet some really cool people who we kind of trauma bonded, I think. So if you want that experience, you want to trauma bond with people, yeah.
We don't have to continue discussing the organization that the FBI investigated for human trafficking that your career is now tainted by because you were naive and ambitious baby writer more than a decade ago. So let's talk about your actual books.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of ambitious and questionable strategies when it comes to publishing, but I've never seen an aspiring speculative fiction author try to gain favor with the boomer demographic by publishing a Beatles word search.
A Beatles word search?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I have no idea where that came from. You know, I thought I was just linked to these recipe books, which I've asked to have removed, but I did not know that I was also the author of a Beatles word search.
Yeah.
I should really publicize that more.
I think so. It has 0 reviews.
Yeah.
I also couldn't find a copy, so it's out of print, I think.
I should have at least posted a review of that myself.
Your traditional publishing debut was The Bone Shard Daughter. Am I correct in understanding that it has a boner-based magic system?
Yes, absolutely, yes. So it is all based on bones. So you need to have bones in order to do magic in this world.
Tell me a little bit about how you got the idea for The Bone Shard Daughter.
I was out to lunch with some other writer friends, and one of my friends, Marina Lostetter, who's now also a published author, she got Chinese food from a food court in Texas, which is not the best place to get Chinese food from. So she ended up having a shard of bone in her food, and she almost choked on it. And that's kind of how I started getting the idea, was her near-death experience. So I thought, well, what if you use bone shards for magic?
And so, to be clear, she's still alive. You didn't, ignore her while she was choking?
She is still alive, yes,
Okay.
yes. Although my friends do joke that one of them has to have another near-death experience for me to get my next book idea.
In her Locus magazine review, Catherine Coldiron called The Bone Shard Daughter surprisingly complex. Was she surprised because a woman wrote a complex novel, or do you think you just have one of those faces where she assumed you wouldn't be capable of writing something complex?
You know, I think I probably have one of those faces, for sure. I think people look at me and they think, there's nothing really going on up there.
Yeah, that is what we think.
Yeah, I'm just staring off into the distance. Definitely my teachers thought that.
Yeah, nothing going on up there.
Nothing going on.
You've got some interesting forms of motivation.
Okay.
You've said that the biggest thing that keeps you going is that you think about dying a lot.
I do think about dying a lot.
Yeah. Have you always been like that, or is that like an old person thing?
No, I've always been like that, sadly. I just think a lot about how much time I've lived and how much time I have left and how little time I have to do everything that I want to and how fast the days are going by.
Huh?
Yeah, I think a lot about what is it going to be like when I'm dying. Am I going to think about all the things I didn't do, or am I going to be happy with what I did?
Yeah.
But yeah, mortality is definitely a huge motivator for me.
You've got some other forms of motivation too, like that you'll indulge in a singular chocolate chip
Yes.
for 100 words written. I would think about dying a lot too if I got a singular chocolate chip per 100 words I write.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you're writing like 3,000 words, that's still quite a few chocolate chips, right?
No,
That's like what, 30?
that's a handful.
Yeah.
But it's not easy becoming a full-time author. You wrote 7 manuscripts before you broke in. Can you remind me how many years you spent querying, how long you spent on submission, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I spent 6 years querying multiple manuscripts and then 6 years going on submission with multiple manuscripts. So I like to tell people I'm a slow learner.
I think that's obvious. You don't have to tell us. The financial strain of that must be pretty intense. You're working on art that you don't know if it's good, and just you're wondering the entire time if you're burning money while you do it.
I guess.
Right?
I mean, I was working a day job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Despite working a day job, which must not have paid you enough money, because you found ways to mitigate the financial side of things. While you were trying to break in, you actually sold babies to help pay the bills, right?
Oh, I sold eggs. Yeah. I mean, not sold. It's donated. Yeah. They pay you for your time and your suffering.
Just the time. Okay. So you didn't sell babies.
I did not.
Oh, I didn't know if, the Scientology had kind of inspired you to
Yeah,
participate in human trafficking.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it worked for them.
You've got a new book that'll be out by the time this interview goes up called The Gods Below.
Yes.
What's it about?
Why? Why do you have to ask me what my books are about? I've actually gone and asked people if I could read the back cover of my book because I'm so bad at summarizing. So it's set on a hollow world where magic exists as particles in the air, and it becomes denser and denser the closer you get to the center of the world, which is where the gods live. And it follows two sisters who end up on opposite sides of a clandestine war between the gods.
Cool. I read a brutal review, a 1-star review of your upcoming book.
I probably read that one too.
It said, woke garbage, and a hollow world isn't scientifically possible, so how well researched is this book anyways? People who are transformed to have wings and horns? Obvious pandering to the furries. And how many people, when they find out that the magic in this world requires you to hold your breath during a fight, are going to pass out, seeing if they can do the same? Irresponsible. What do you have to say to the reviewer who wrote that just aggressive, cruel review?
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, and it may be irresponsible, but I would hope that people would use some common sense. Maybe that's too much to ask, though.
Maybe so. So you think you should use more common sense?
Me?
Yeah.
Maybe? Always?
I was just wondering because you wrote that review.
Yeah, I did. I was wondering if you... Yeah.
But I guess as we discussed, the common sense, it's not all there.
I'm working on it. It's a work in progress.
Hey, you want to see who can hold their breath for longer?
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Don't I already win?
No, I'm not breathing. I'm holding my breath. Did you lose? You lost.
I don't think that's true.
I just breathe different.
Oh, I see. Do you have like a second set of lungs? Is that...
Actually, I don't want to talk about my lungs. I had 2 spontaneous pneumothoraxes.
I'm so
this is
sorry.
actually a really sensitive and traumatic subject for me.
I'm so sorry.
The fact that you even bring
I
it
just
up.
walked into that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
How dare you? Bring up my traumas. Only I get to bring up your traumas.
Ah, that's right. This is an interview.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Diversity is obviously an important thing in publishing. But I think it's important to discuss the quality of the diversity too, because if you just have some cardboard cutout characters, then it's not exactly high quality representation, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't expect there to be any problems in this area with your books, and then I saw the bookmarks for your upcoming series. I'll just show you to remind you.
Yeah, I know
they
what they look like. Yeah.
So you have hot Asian chick with katana,
Yeah.
hot Asian chick with horns, Asian dude with satchel, hot giant white dude with wings, a cat, and a lightning sword, and then hot Asian sugar mommy. Why did you create such a disparity between the men? You gave the white guy a lightning sword, wings, and an adorable cat. You gave the Asian guy a satchel. One appeals to the female gaze. The other is the weird kid in high school who insists on being quirky instead of wearing a backpack.
Well, one of them is a god, and the other one is immortal. So there are going to be some natural disparities between them, unfortunately, for the man with the satchel.
Yeah, so...
But he is rich, so
Oh.
there is that.
But white people are gods in this world?
Well, anybody of any ethnicity is a god in this world. But he in particular.
But the only one that's on all of your promotional materials is the white guy. You don't have any of the other ethnicities of the other gods or...
Well, no, because they're mostly dead.
Okay, so...
I know, he's the survivor, yeah.
That's interesting.
I know, what did I do? Some sort of deeply buried bias in me somewhere.
Must be. I think this image actually illustrates my point even better.
Oh, yeah.
This short king is hovering a foot off the ground and is still the shortest person in this picture by a mile. You're kind of playing into the stereotype of short Asian men, don't you think?
Well, his whole thing is not about... Unfortunately, his whole thing is not about being hot, which I think it is apparently for everybody else in the cast. His whole thing is about him being smart And him,
A smart Asian guy, really.
I know. He doesn't, it's not about math though. Well, actually he does do a little math. Oh God.
In an interview with Locus Magazine, you said that you've always wanted to have a cake with your book cover on it, but that you never did for your first 3 trad publications. I know it's 3 days early, but
No way.
would you like to have some cake?
Oh my God, what, really?
Really?
Okay, oh my God, no, really?
Really?
What? Oh man, this is like, my first book was like in a pandemic, and then like I also had gestational diabetes, so I couldn't even eat cake. So like, oh my God, that's so cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's like the best thing ever.
So we can have some cake to celebrate.
Yeah, okay. Oh man, I got a little piece of my cover. Looks so good. Cheers.
Dink it, yeah.
Yeah, dink. Mmm. It's actually like really good frosting too. Usually the frosting is like one of those things that's just like too sweet and it doesn't have good flavor. But this one's actually really good. Oh my God. I think I know what my next book is going to be about.
Be inspired. Endless possibilities. Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, there's a wish. You can dream.
Xenu thought his galaxy was overpopulated, and so he rounded up countless aliens from all different planets, and then had those aliens frozen. The frozen alien bodies were loaded onto Xenu's galactic cruisers, which looked like DC-8s, except with rocket engines. The cruisers then took the frozen alien bodies to our planet, Earth, and dumped them into the volcanoes of Hawaii.